I've been in private practice in Princeton, New Jersey for over 21 years. I got into orthodontics really as an endeavor of revenge because I had such a unique experience with early, and of course I say that in jest, but really my own treatment as a youngster with an early phase of an expander, followed by about 4.5 years of traditional fixed appliances with an impacted maxillary cuspid that took me from 8th grade to March of my senior year. And just my experience going through that really made me recognize the value, the interaction with patients and staff and the doctor that really just always sparked my interest. And so really from the 5th grade is when I had the bug in my head that I wanted to become an orthodontist when I grew up. Well, today's aligners compared to early on in the Wild West in the early 2000s, it's a completely different appliance system. It's not just the appliance, but it's the whole digital workflow. So when you juxtapose the early aligner appliances back when, and back in the early 2000s, it was Invisalign only. There was goopy PVS impressions. There was ClinCheck software that looked like it was out of the Stone Ages. And there were no optimized attachments, and we were truly in the weeds, if you will, trying to distill down the basic biomechanical principles that we take for granted or took for granted every day with traditional fixed appliances and build them back up into cartoonodontics, into the ClinCheck to get our desired movements, really trying to understand what the strength of aligners were and what the weaknesses were, and to maximize those strengths while at the same time minimizing the weaknesses to get the desired tooth movements. And so when you fast forward 21 years and look at all the R&D that Align Technology has really committed to, from not only materials and the plastic itself, but to the optimized attachments, to the staging, and then you put the cherry on top of that ice cream sundae with iTero digital workflow. It's more than just a legitimate orthodontic appliance, because back when aligners was like considered an illegitimate, orthodontic appliance. Now it's a very legitimate orthodontic appliance, but at the same time with the digital workflow, I would argue that now all that layered into the marketing aspect, Align Technology is a true business partner driving awareness and people into my practice and my orthodontic colleagues' practices as well. So when you compare the early on aligner appliance to 2021, where we are now, it is a whole different ball game that we never envisioned 21 years ago. But while we never envisioned it, we are truly appreciating it, and it's continuing to evolve not only from an R&D point of view, but a digital workflow point of view, and a consumer awareness. And getting back to the article, we talked about, or I discussed that, I choose vendors based not only on quality, but those that raise and commit marketing dollars to raise consumer awareness, to combat what's going on in the marketplace and really drive customer awareness on getting a doctor-centered treatment plan and getting a doctor at the center of a treatment plan and driving consumers to make them patients into our orthodontic offices. Well, it's first of all, it's light years faster than previous generations. It's seamless. Staff loves it. Very user friendly. Um, just this week, we've started the automatic intraoral upload of the scanner for when I do my Invisalign prescription. Now all I have to use or upload are the patient photos, and by using the Invisalign Photo Uploader app, that's all done automatically. So I've really just saved a lot of steps when it comes to digital workflow. Um, the other thing that I like about it now, and I've been using this for the last month or so since it's been available, is the scanning report. So oftentimes, instead of writing a lengthy treatment plan letter, I will go on my iTero.com and create a scanning report, make my own annotations, save it as a PDF, and just shoot that over in an email to the referring office, the referring doctor, etc. And it is just really streamlined the whole process. And on the face of it, it still looks very impressive. I mean, when you have a scanner and you show a patient their teeth right there, the engagement factor is something that should not be discounted. And by scanning somebody at every new exam, it has been great. And getting back to digital workflow, I'm a medium-sized office in a medium-sized pond, and the last 2 days, I have been down 2 staff members. So I've got 1 clinical staff member and 1 front desk person, and we are seeing 40 to 45 patients each of those days with 5 to 6 new patient exams and right now it's lunchtime. So I had 6 new starts this morning, and I had 5 yesterday. And so just with 1 clinical staff member with this iTero digital workflow, I've had 11 starts in a day and a half of work, and I haven't even broken a sweat. My hair gel still looks great, and it's been wonderful. And I'm running on time. I mean, I came right on time for this interview, so I couldn't do what I do with braces with what I do with Invisalign and iTero digital workflow. Well, since 2021, I bumped up from 80 to 85% to closer to 90% in the last 6 months, simply because the demand since the shutdown, the demand over the last 9, 12 months has been really truly tangible. I mean, you can touch it and feel it. It's like the humidity in the Northeast here during a hot July afternoon kind of just smacks you in the face, and people are just calling. And again, as a solo practitioner with no treatment coordinator, if I'm able to, in the last several months, I've had 100 new exams on average in each of my, with both of my offices combined. It's been really incredible. So right now, getting back to your question, I'm about 90% of my patients choose aligners for their treatment. And notice I say they choose, because when I present to them treatment options, I go over, I can do it with braces or aligners. They're often the same fee, same time frame. Here are the advantages of each approach, and you can decide what you would like to do. And 9 out of 10, regardless of their age, choose aligners. I will finish by saying there are certain case types now that I refuse to treat with braces. One is an anterior open bite type case, because I personally have much more control over the vertical dimension with aligners compared to braces in those patients. And then early treatment. Early treatment still only makes up 8 to 10% of what I do any given year. And so with the advent of using aligners, specifically Invisalign first, with early treatment, I haven't done more early treatment because of it, but I have had a much better patient experience, much better workflow in the office, schedule capacity. And so when somebody comes in and needs tooth movement as part of an early phase of treatment, I really only present Invisalign first aligners to do such cases. Well, first and foremost, just patients seeing their own teeth, and you can sit there and pinch and zoom in and out is pictures worth 1,000 words. I personally love using the Occulsalgram. So when you hit that little button and they see those heavy red marks and what the deep bite is doing or where they're hitting or not hitting, that to me is very simple. It's instantaneous. There is the outcome simulator, which I will use if a patient asks to see it, and I find that also very effective. Some doctors use it more than I do, and that's great. I have found simply using the Occulsalgram and their actual scan a wonderful tool for engagement and conversion. I then have my archive of treated cases, and so with all the cases that I've treated, I have a Rolodex in my head. And for you younger kids in the audience, a Rolodex is what we used to store and keep our contact and phone numbers on. Now everything's on, cell phone. But I have a Rolodex in my head of all the previously treated cases, and I can call them up and show somebody exactly a similar case type, what aligners look like in and out of the mouth, what attachments look like with aligners in and out of the mouth, and how long their case might take to treat based on an archive of a previously treated case with clinical similarities. I think that has really been something that we as orthodontists have needed to get used to and sort of put our egos aside and realize that our patients like us, but they don't necessarily want to see us as often as we used to. So, back in the day, as I was building the amount of aligners in my practice, I would still see my patients every 6 weeks because that's what I did with braces, right? And why do anything different? And the purpose of this technology, or let me rephrase that, one of the benefits of this technologies and the purpose of any technology is to do more with less, but is to leverage the ability to design treatment to set your force system, to set your appliance system, to set it and forget it, like the Ron Popeil of orthodontics, and be able to hand out 3 months, 4 months worth of aligners because patients love it, especially, the pandemic really just legitimized what we were doing for the last several years, in my opinion. And I'll get back to your question in a moment, but the whole purpose of leveraging this technology is ultimately schedule capacity. And now that I see my patients every 16 to 20 weeks without using any sort of monitoring on a routine basis, my patients call me if there's a problem. They come in earlier if they have a question, and it's simply a quick visit. But leveraging this technology of being able to do orthodontics with Invisalign aligners is really about schedule capacity for me as a small business owner who happens to do orthodontics, who happens to be an orthodontist. And when it comes to losing touch with the patient, I tell my patients they can call, text me anytime that they want. And thankfully, it's few and far between because after all my bitter years of private practice experience, I've been able to hone the skill of doing orthodontics with aligners so I can design a ClinCheck knowing that the teeth are going to track. I have patients that want to come in earlier, almost like a Weight Watchers, because they want to be held accountable, and I'm happy to do that. There is a virtual appointment aspect with Invisalign if you want to use that app and engage your patients that way. So the assets are there, the digital assets are there at your disposal to use. When it comes to losing touch with the patient, I tell my patients at the exam that Invisalign doesn't design the treatment plan. Invisalign, or a technician, the software doesn't design it. It's me. It's doctor specific. And if Invisalign were so easy, they wouldn't fly me around the country and internationally, for that matter, to teach other orthodontic specialists how to do Invisalign. And so while everybody listening to this is not a lecturer, I would say that I would tell your patients that Invisalign is not automatic, and that's why I commit to going to 36, 40 hours of continuing education of how to become more of an expert of using Invisalign aligners. So you set the tone from the beginning at the initial exam. You set the tone at the beginning at the new patient phone call when they're calling for a second, third opinion when they've been told Invisalign is not for them. And the best way to sell somebody something is to tell them that they can't have it. When somebody calls and says, well, I've been told Invisalign is not for me, they're already sold because they're looking for it. And don't be the doctor that says that they can't have it. Getting back to how do we differentiate ourselves? Part of the article I discussed, growing up in the retail business, in the carpet industry, and back in the 80s, there was a company called DuPont. There is still a company called DuPont, and they developed something called StainMaster carpet. StainMaster carpet was a truly novel endeavor where it was special fibers that were woven in a certain way, that were treated with a certain DuPont material that had resistance to stain. More so, they had a wonderfully effective marketing campaign with a young red-headed, curly-headed child sitting in a high chair making a mess with his food all over the carpet. And because the parents had StainMaster, that the stains from the spilled yogurt, the spilled milk, the spilled chocolate, whatever, parrots and peas and carrots did not stain the carpet. And why I think this is relevant, that story, my experience growing up, is because anybody could sell StainMaster carpet back when. And it was up to my family and to make patients know, or make consumers know, that they could buy StainMaster carpet at the stores, but what set them apart is why they would choose our family store to go to. So the value add was certain financing. The value add was the customer experience. So my point is, anybody can sell StainMaster carpet. Anybody can get Invisalign anywhere, but it's up to you as a doctor, as a dental, an orthodontic specialist, to create the value add why somebody should go to you for their Invisalign. So whether it's consumers looking to get orthodontic treatment with clear aligners, or whether it's existing patients that are your patients, you have to create that value add, however it is, in your office and in your marketing area where you practice, to create that value add that you won't lose touch with the patient. Again, from either consumer to existing patient, leveraging this product and digital workflow accordingly. What I am most excited about orthodontics for the future, as well as today, is that we really don't know what's ahead of us. And why is that exciting? Who would have thunk it 10 years ago that we would have digital scanners, that would be an integral part of our practice workflow? Who would have thought that I'm able to handle 90% of my patients' case types with aligners 20 years ago? So what excites me today and in the future about orthodontics is, I think that from a clinical point of view, I think our diagnostics can only get better. I think truly the next frontier is better understanding of a patient's biology and the periodontium, and how people with certain genotypes will react to the orthodontic forces that we impart upon them. So that's a bit more of a science fiction excitement. And I've had my hand at that with an attempt to develop a therapeutic adjunct to help mitigate relapse way back when. From a practice point of view, I think the advent and the technology and the apps that are developing to better capture patient data, whether it is the Invisalign Photo Uploader app, whether it's the scanning and merging all that acquisition of patient data and diagnostics, I think is over the next 3 to 5 years will be even a better game changer than it's already been. I think ultimately what really excites me as a business person who happens to do orthodontics is really just the huge untapped opportunities that are still out there, with all the marketing being sloshed around by major companies. If you as an orthodontist are not keen to that, and you as an orthodontist are not pivoting and adjusting your sales to the winds that are blowing to capture those people, bring them in and educate them on their orthodontic options, and I think you really have your head in the sand. So I'm most excited as a business person with the demand that is there. I'm excited as a scientific geek at heart as to how we can better treat our patients with understanding how their biology reacts to the forces we impart upon them. And then as a clinical guy, I'm excited about the new workflows, the digital workflows, and the apps that we haven't even thought about yet, but somebody's behind their computer screen right now working on writing that code that will be a true game changer in the next 3 to 5 year term.